All right, what's up? Welcome to episode 31, Mi Duole podcast. This is Stuart Anderson. Just a short introduction before we get started with Eric Flynn and your bike sounds like a bird's nest. A phrase that Eric uses to describe awful sounding bikes. So I thought that was funny. He's very smart and shares a lot of valuable information about how to care for your bike. Eric owns a shop in Holladay, Flynn Cyclery, and a lot of great experiences with Eric that Chip and I both share. So hopefully you enjoy the episode with him. He has so much experience and expertise in the world of fixing bikes. His shop is very unique. It's service only. He does offer some goods for sale, soft goods and clothing and some bikes, but it is built on the idea of service specifically. So hopefully you enjoy the episode. He's got some great advice on how to care for your own bike, how to take care of things, especially like washing, cleaning, taking care of the drivetrain. He has some good suggestions, so hopefully you enjoy it. Big shout out to our sponsors. I do a bit of a sponsor shout out at the beginning of this podcast, but I wanted to, this is the time of year where we're reviewing and asking sponsors to support the team. And if you don't know, most, if not all of the sponsors on our jerseys are fellow team members. That to me is very special. These are people who are committed to the team. They want to interact and be part of something bigger than themselves and support everything that we're doing. So a huge amount of love for all of our sponsors and team members who are willing to help fund not only our kits, but our website, this podcast, discounts on all of the goods that we share with the team, whether it's hats, shirts, contests, barbacoa gift cards, all the things that are provided at kit pickup are all done and only possible through our sponsors. They allow us to do it at a huge discount, as well as provide some of the funnest and coolest stuff to you guys. So big love to them. Thanks for all they do, and thanks for everything they do to make sure that this team runs. That's it. Enjoy Eric Flynn. Grateful for him and thankful for everybody on the team. All right. See ya. All right. What's up? Welcome, everybody, to another episode, Mi Duole podcast. We're joined today by Eric Flynn. Welcome, Eric.
Hello.
Chip is going to give a little introduction to Eric in just a sec. Hey, Chip. How's it going?
Hey, great. Hey, everyone.
Good. Hey, just a couple team announcements. The things that are on my mind, stuff on Chip's mind. You have to listen to this in order to get to the podcast. So I care. I don't really care. One, I want to thank our sponsors. This is the time of year when we're kind of like revamping the jerseys and things moving forward to next year. And I'll tell you a quick story. One of our sponsors left, a corporate sponsor that found us, and whatever. I put it out to the team and said, who would like to sponsor, or is there anybody that's interested? And within 5 minutes, Dean Walker stepped up. You just heard Dean talk about Leadville, and said, I want to support. I want to be involved. I want my logo on there. That was it. He just like, I want to be part of this team. Dude, big love for Dean and all the sponsors on the team, on the jersey and everything. So, just grateful for that. We'll meet this Saturday if you're listening. Chip, I don't know what we're going to do about weather. We're supposed to have an awards party on the patio of Barbacoa. So bring your umbrellas. I don't know.
Yep. The option will be to go inside if it gets too bad, but we can guarantee that your food will be covered under the awning of the patio.
So we've got some fun awards. Things will hand out. So RSVP with me and Chip or on the Group Me or Facebook page. So we know how many people are coming for food. Eric, my relationship with you goes back to Spin Cycle, taking a hike, years ago from like that same kind of area that used to hold Holladay cycling together, that Spin Cycle right there. They moved down to Holladay Boulevard, and it was like then they just were gone. And Eric took that space and kind of entered the Holladay City Center as the GOAT. And we wondered, Eric, too, like, dude, you're across from Summit Cyclery. Like, how is this going to work? How are they going to compete against each other? And man, it just worked out. Eric has a different space, a different kind of business model, way different type of service than, I don't want to, maybe we've got some Summit Cyclery listeners, but just obviously our gratitude to you, Eric, for years of service on this team, the people of Holladay, however you want to represent your clientele, but longtime expert on fixing our bikes and the system that you got. So thank you, Eric, before Chip introduces you. Thank you from me and Kristen and all of the weird bikes at our house that you take care of.
All good. Yeah. Thanks for showing up.
Nice, dude. Okay, Chip.
Yeah. Thanks, Stu. And so excited to talk with you today, Eric. As Stu mentioned, Flynn Cyclery opens up in Holladay, and I would refer to it as just very sound and solid business. And Eric Flynn is the owner of Flynn Cyclery. They specialize in service and repair. Eric is a racer, longtime racer himself, so therefore an expert in the industry. I love that Eric is an expert in mountain, road, and in gravel, and that becomes really important to our team members in today's climate, with everybody racing and kind of having a full quiver of bikes in their garage. I was introduced and got excited about Eric winning the Wild Horse race out in near Tooele, one of the beginning gravel races years ago. And
it was the little horse. It wasn't the big horse. So
was it really?
Yeah, just the little course. I did the first year they had it. I did the big loop, and we had like torrential rain. I think like a week before, and it washed out. I think the front and the back side of the second climb. So everybody rode full suspension cross-country mountain bikes, which, yeah, that's what you needed that day. There were certainly guys on gravel bikes or cross bikes, and they were hating it. So the next year, I was like, I don't want to be out there for 6 hours again, 5 hours again. So I'm just do this little one. And yeah, it was fun. Just kind of got after it with some other guys and managed to come across the line first. So, but it was a good time. Yeah, if anybody's on the fence for the Wild Horse and they don't want to, they're kind of over the extensive hours and hours of suffering, give the little loop a try. It's a good time. You'll get a solid workout. You'll still get home in time, hang out with the wife and kids, and it won't kill your entire day. But it's a good time nonetheless. The big one's definitely an adventure too. So yeah, it's definitely do it.
That's a good one. Eric's located in Holladay, as we've mentioned. Recently moved. Anyone that has not been to Eric's new shop, very cool. Next door to Leslie's Bakery. It's you can stop and take advantage of both Eric and Leslie's Bakery.
The eclairs. That's what you want. Yeah.
And at Flynn Cyclery, to wrap up his intro, really they kind of tout the 24 to 48 hour turnaround time frame. And we're going to touch on how that's been important in many case scenarios through our team, through other teams, feedback on the Olympus high school team for the racers there. They're always like the day before, right? And just been extremely helpful in that sense. So, Eric, thanks for joining us today.
Eric, you're really like the only mechanic that we've had. We've had no one on this program that knows anything about like this industry. It's not like a thing. I mean, Mike Hansen's come on, but he has not talked about what you do. So this is cool.
I'm still trying to figure the industry out too. So it changes every year. So yeah, standards and whatnot. Everybody's got their own game plan, it seems like. But yeah, it's interesting. So you just try and roll with it and pick up what you can along the way and try and make it work. So.
Yeah. So Eric, we would love to start and talk about, you had, as Stu mentioned, start in learning and understanding the business as mechanic, now owner. Mm-hmm. Walk us through the decision and how you jumped into the industry from racing into owning your own shop.
Well, I guess you got to go all the way back to the beginning. So, little town I grew up in West Tennessee, probably like 91 or 92. We got our first bike shop in town. It's called Bike World. And, as a kid, you're riding BMX bikes, skateboards, whatever. And BMX racing had quite the scene where I grew up. And once the bike shop showed up, we just kind of spent, in the summertime, all our time cruising around on bikes, and we hang out at the bike shop until they kick us out. And, slowly learned how to fix stuff, how to break stuff. And from there, I think when I was 16, I finally got a job at that shop. And my father was heavily into fitness and sports and all that stuff. So he would win these, like, I don't know if they were sales contests or something, but he would get like these department store bikes as like these 10 speeds, like Free Spirits and AMFs and all that. So he would just take off and ride for, hours on end. And my sister and I would just wonder where he'd go. Where we grew up was pretty conducive for road riding. So you could get out of town pretty quick and just, kind of out in the boonies, middle of nowhere. So anyway, I kind of, got into that with him, just riding and stuff. And then I think we took a trip out to Colorado where he grew up, and he kind of took us through the Rockies. But this was kind of the late 80s. And we went and toured the Coors Brewery, and they sponsored the Coors Classic back in the 80s. Greg LeMond, Bernard Hinault would race, and all these guys. And it was just this thing that I knew nothing about, but it was just overwhelming. And so that kind of started the whole bicycle, the road cycling thing. And along with BMX, I always kind of had a hankering for road riding, and got into the shop, started to kind of just learn things like everybody does. And then moved to Oklahoma for almost 2 years and worked at a couple stores there. The biggest thing was just working with people who knew the trade really well. So learning from them, and had a chance to move out here in, I think, 97. Some friends of mine that I grew up with in Tennessee came out here to go to school, and one of them was kind of looking for roommates and was transferring from UVU to Westminster. And I was in between semesters in school and had really got heavy into the road racing in Oklahoma. And just kind of decided to pack my bags up and move out here. And again, came out here, worked at, I don't know if you remember Pedersen Ski and Sports.
Oh, yeah. I got rollerblades there.
Cottonwood Mall down in the basement down there.
Loved it. My favorite rack was the Give Blood rack. Remember that rack?
Oh,
Give Blood, play soccer, roller. My favorite part of Pedersen.
Yeah, rollerblades, snowboards, bikes.
Nice.
Whatever. Yeah, anything and everything.
I bought a bike there. Actually,
yeah,
I bought a Trek bike there.
The Mountain Tex, I think, was their house brand. So, but yeah, ran the service department there, and kind of, again, road racing was kind of the focus at the time. The be all end all to life. And met Ryan Littlefield, owner of Contender. We raced together, and started working for him, I think, in maybe 01 when he first moved down to 9th and 9th. No, the little spot on 9th East, and stayed there for quite a few years, and a couple other jobs in between. Got married in 99, and managed a store up by the U for a little bit called Cycle Smith. And my wife is in the kind of construction loan banking world. So she saw the Holladay village kind of coming through the pipes. And I guess they had wanted to get a bike shop in. Spin Cycle had already closed at the time. And so I was like, well, no better time than now. So took what I had and started it up. There wasn't much on the walls. Anybody who walked in that time definitely remembers. But that was kind of the focus I always wanted to do, was kind of a service, not a service only, but a service heavy focus, you know, kind of a bicycle service center, if you will. And, you know, it's like anything, you have 100 people around you telling it's not going to work. And usually that means it's probably going to work. So just decided to keep it going, keep after it, keep going. And yeah, it's here we are 8-9 years later. Kind of outgrew that spot. We were just running out of room, super cramped. And luckily around the corner, this spot opened up, and yeah, we've got almost 3 times the space. And yeah, apparently it's working. So yeah, it's fun.
Man, what a great story. To kind of shed light on how, you know, Eric works and is able to work on every single type of bike. I just want to share a personal experience. I chose to do the Wasatch All-Road, then point to point, and then Lodaja. So 3 different bikes, 3 different weeks. But you want to be training on each of those bikes all the way up until the race. And so not only are you looking for someone that can work on that bike specifically, but also have a pretty quick turnaround time even before the weekend and riding it prior to that weekend. So right out of the gates, my gravel bike was completely tuned, ready to roll for Wasatch All-Road, while my mountain bike was inside with Eric, jumped off the gravel bike and onto the mountain bike that was totally tuned, perfect for point to point. Another quick swap into the road bike. Eric had completely tuned my road bike, ready for Lodaja, race Lodaja. And the very next week, able to take my gravel bike, turn it into a cross bike for racing cross the week after Lodaja. So when we say that Eric understands the full quiver, you're able to just present him with anything, and he just is able to work on anything. And I think that it goes a little bit beyond that. It's like someone that can work as a mechanic can kind of do what you ask them to do, but it's better when one can give you advice and be like, I wouldn't do that, or I would do this based on experience. I wouldn't do that. I would try this. Sometimes that either saves you a lot of money or it saves you a lot of like trial and error, which is really expensive. Stu, you had an experience just the same with trying to build a wheel with Eric.
Yep.
You know, that's what I would love to highlight about going into Flynn Cyclery.
Well, and beyond that, it's like I now trust Eric's opinion like across the board. Like he is the end all. Like Kristen and I argue about a thing, and then she takes it to Eric, and I'm like, do it. Do that thing. Do it, he says. And that is so nice. It's so nice to have. I mean, Chip and I work in an industry where we're like, dentistry is built on trust.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I go to you because I trust your opinion about my mouth. It's fun to do the same thing with you, Eric. It's like we know you now. Your opinion and what you do to our rigs is always spot on. So I want to know, Eric, did you create this business model? Do you have a mentor? Did you just come up with this? I mean, how did that work? How'd you get into where you are?
Mentors, guys I've worked with in the past, some just really good mechanics and kind of lifers, I guess you could say. But they've just been around forever. But we always had the discussion of, I think that the first time, like we gave it like a really good, honest like look was when I was managing Cyclesmith up by the U. And we kind of really started pushing this service thing, like a lot of college kids, broke college kids up there, just riding around on these just blasted out bikes, but didn't want to buy anything new. And we were trying to sell new bikes. We didn't have the big heavy brands. That's the other thing with shops. You got to have some anchor brands, a Specialized, a Trek, a Giant, a Cannondale, those kinds of things. And if you don't, it's kind of hard. There's great bike brands out there that aren't as big as those, but people kind of have there's a little trepidation there as far as diving into a brand that's either not as well known, or their friends aren't riding, or the friends haven't told them about. So yeah, that was kind of the moment where we're like, can this work? And we kind of you don't want to gouge your labor rates up just to make it work. You want to stay reasonable and keep things economic for people, but you got to have the turnaround, you got to have the flow. So that was I guess I was the first one to just jump into the fire and try it. I don't know, I'm sure somebody else out there has done it, but it was definitely nerve-wracking at first. And luckily, I mean, I picked up Norco. They're kind of our main, we sell a few bikes in the past, obviously not this year due to COVID and the situation there, but yeah, that great brand, Canadian brand, been up there since I think the 60s. Very, very, very strong mountain bike lineup. I'd put them up against anybody. But again, when I first opened, I had their bikes on the floor and constantly having to explain to people who they were, what they were, and it was hard to move them. So yeah, that was kind of the main thing, was just making the service gig work, having the wear and tear parts, trying to have the wear and tear parts on the wall, the tires, the cassettes, the chains, brake pads, those kinds of things. Not really worrying about the clothes. That another thing I think with any new business owner maybe is you get kind of caught up in like what the established shops are doing, what they have on the wall, what they're moving. You're like, I went into XYZ shop the other day and man, they've got a wall full of clothing, $300 CD shoes. And you come home and you're kind of bummed out and you're like, I'm never going to work. But the thing is those shops, they've been 20, 30 years in the making. That just didn't happen overnight. So even those guys started out real small and kind of went through the same growing pains as everybody else. And I think with our store and kind of what we're doing, just try and stick to the guns. And I think when I first opened, there was a guy, that's terrible, I can't remember his name, but he owns I think the ski loft over off of Highland Drive. It's where you go to get great boot fittings. And
right by the Hot Tub store. Mm-hmm.
Exactly, yeah. And he kind of came in, it was kind of like this weird like Oracle moment. He was just kind of just roaming around and weird small talks, and he's like, well, I hope you do well. And I was like, yeah, me too. And he's like, can I give you one piece of advice? I was like, absolutely. And he's like, focus on what you're good at. Like, all right. And that's kind of what I constantly remembered over this whole process, is just kind of, obviously you want to try and, reach out and take chances and new things and try and get different balls rolling. But I think at the end of the day, you kind of you're anchored by what got you there to begin with, and kind of what got things moving. And that's kind of where I want to try and continue things to go. And given the nature of the industry too, right now, you're starting to see, a lot of the big brands, they're going consumer direct, and they still create a relationship with the shops. But a lot of brands you buy straight off their website, be it their soft goods, some their bikes, and they'll ship them to a store that's either a current dealer or, you go pick the stuff up. So there's still a channel there. But yeah, there's definitely going big on the inventory side. If you're not established. It's definitely a big gamble nowadays. And we're just trying to keep this thing going. So it's working. So yeah.
Chip, maybe we could talk for a sec about, I'd love to hear Eric's perspective on what's happening in the industry. Like from your perspective, Eric, what has changed in the last year and a half?
Well, we'll take COVID and kind of set that aside for the moment. But as far as we'll come back to it. But the technology is just mind blowing. How fast things come out, new product, new standards, new everything, and getting the new stuff to work with the old stuff. Will the old frame work with the new bottom bracket? Will the new rear wheel fit my new spacing on my old bike? And it's that's the I guess one of many headaches, I guess. But the hard part is all this technology that's coming out. It's amazing. It makes riding very enjoyable. Especially if you've kind of been around for a while, so you've run the gamut of 9-speed Dura Ace, climbing the backside of big cottonwood, on a 3925 in 1997. That was all you knew. But now it's you've got these huge gearing options, bikes with insane tire options as well. So that's the big thing. But yeah, trying to just keep up with it all, and keep people's old steeds working with some of the new equipment and vice versa. But it's it's a cursing and a blessing and a curse, I should say. But yeah, it's definitely fun. It's interesting, and some of the stuff, I guess this might be the old curmudgeon grumpy mechanic coming out of me, but you have a lot of kind of smaller brands, that not bike brands, but brands that'll make, say, some componentry, wheels, hubs, cassettes, different things. And you kind of get things going and they don't work out too well. And you kind of wonder, how much R&D do they put, or testing do they put into these things? And I'm not going to name any names or anything like that, but yeah, it's just there's a big kind of a hurried push to get this stuff out to people and get it into the industry. And a few companies that'll make, they kind of specialize in making products that are compatible with different things, compatible with Shimano, compatible with SRAM, compatible with, whatever. And some of them don't work out too well and they're expensive. So when people bring these things in and, you put them on and the wear and tear isn't as long as it should be, or, that matches the price point, I should say. But yeah, it's an interesting time for sure in the bike biz. Yeah, the technology is just so fast and everything's changing every year. There's, new products and, but yeah, and then you've got the situation we're in right now with COVID and the just complete collapse of the supply chains. I'm sure anybody listening would, that's not just bikes, it's everything, basically from China. But just getting stuff into people's hands, the demand is huge, but stuff just can't get off the boat. I think I was reading last week, there's over 70 cargo ships completely packed with freight anchored off Long Beach waiting. Yeah. And that's, who knows what's out there, I'm sure there's a few bike chains waiting to get into
my Continental 5000s are out there.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and that's a struggle too, is you're trying to stay on top of, keeping what you can in stock. And a lot of distributors now, they have kind of panic buying rules in place to where you can only buy X amount of a product when it shows up, so you jump on that. It's all gone the next day. You got to wait almost a month for the next wave to show up. Dang. So yeah, and they're, people will come in, they'll bring the bikes and, just a regular tune up, just a basic tune up. Hey, can you throw a new chain on, my 9-speed, 1997, Univega, and you're like, I don't have any 9-speed chains. And you're like, you don't have any 9-speed chains. Like, no. So you explain what's going on, and so you're trying not to look stupid, but you're trying to just, it's definitely weird. So you just roll with it, and you'll get a lot of our parts distributors. They've got parts wash notifications. So when something shows up at the warehouse, you'll either get a text or an email. I personally sign up for the text. You get them a little quicker. I think I got one from a distributor Sunday morning for like 11-speed chains.
Yeah.
Luckily, there were 2 different brands and 2 different models, so I was able to get like 15 chains, and I was like, freaking out. So I immediately opened my phone, opened the app for the distributor, get everything going, submit the order. And it's like any idea of trying to like consolidate freight and maximize freight costs and all, it just goes out the window. And it's, and a lot of times you'll punch the stuff into the system, and as soon as you go to your checkout cart, everything's gone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah. And you're just sitting there like, what am I supposed to do? So, yeah. But no, it's, you make it work somehow, like today, for example, I drove out to, competitive cyclist backcountry.com over on 3200 West to get 3, rear shock sleeve kits that are $16 a piece, pay full retail for them just to get bikes out the door. And as our parts distributors, they'll, they won't have any for a month, but a company like Backcountry, who has enormous buying power, they seem to have everything under the sun, which is interesting. Is what it is. I'll go out there and wait and pick up a little bit of camping product too while I'm there. So spread the love around. But,
nice.
Yeah, good times.
Oh, that is. Go ahead, Stu.
No, I was just going to transition a bit into Eric giving advice. But if you had something else, Chip.
I just, everyone wants to know when that is going to end, Eric. Mm-hmm. Everyone wants to know. And I would just wonder if in the industry you have any feeling if any of the products are getting easier. Like this is the first time where you're kind of grateful for the quiver of bikes that you might have, because you're just like, I'm holding on to the, like,
yeah.
You could sell anything. You could sell anything for whatever you wanted right now, but you can't get it back. So now you're just like holding, waiting.
Yeah. So, yeah, I've heard. I was speaking to a guy today. He's from Colorado. He owns a store out there, and he was on the phone with SRAM a couple days ago, and their main basically hub out in Chicago. He said, we've got, containers full of product, but we don't have people to unload them. So
wow.
Yeah, the production's been in place for a while. So the product's made, it's there, literally waiting to get unboxed and get distributed to shops and whatnot. So I've heard, obviously the worst end of the spectrum is I've heard like obviously late 2022, early 23. That's for a lot of bikes though. So some big brand bikes, you might not see some of those, but kind of the bread and butter stuff, your $400 to $2,000 price points. But as far as product goes, they're hoping kind of mid 22. I don't think anything will be back to normal, whatever, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that normal. But these periods of like months on end for waiting for a set of brake pads to show up and whatnot. And those, probably mid next year, things should be relatively calm, but who knows? But yeah, just in the meantime, as advice to consumers who are listening, to people riding, don't be afraid to try a new brand of brake pads you never heard of, or something like that, or a KMC chain versus your Shimano or whatever. It's don't be afraid of those things. They're good. They'll get you done. So, but yeah, that's kind of where it's at. You just you dig through what you can and get a hold of stuff as it pops up. But as far as when, I'm hoping next year, middle of next year maybe. So we'll see. Yep.
Well, my only, I mean, the one thing I wanted to talk about, Eric, was imagine like the dumbest bike owner on planet Earth.
Okay.
Bringing. Okay, you can see him in your head.
I think I've got a visual. Yeah.
You got.
Yep. Okay.
I think I saw that bike last time I was in. But like, if you were going to talk to a group of people who own very expensive machines,
sure.
Like, what advice, like top 5 things is essential that you're going to explain to them as somebody who sees bike after bike after bike after bike?
Yeah.
And Stu and Eric, one of the questions that you may not think in your mind, but we want you to answer is this one. Should you spray down your bike? How frequently? Some mechanics will say, quit spraying down your bike so frequently and washing it and keep it. Others will say, you gotta keep this thing tuned. So give us the right and wrong on maintaining the high-end bikes, where to spray, not to spray, et cetera, as well.
Gotcha. So with Stu's question, I would say, especially with these high-end bikes, you guys know, I mean, you can spend 10 grand on a bike, and beyond. Especially the high-end bikes, it's, I don't know if it's at the point when the bikes are sold or if there's a lack of information. This doesn't happen all the time. I'm not saying this, but these bikes are like, you got to look at them as like, Ferraris, high-end cars that are getting driven every day, and you got to put your hands on them a lot. And especially bottom brackets, for example, press fit bottom brackets, those things, and brake pads, chains, it's just wear. And they've got to see the mechanic's hands quite a bit, or if the owner knows how to do these things too. It's not like, I guess, a lot of things in our consumer world where you pay the money for the thing and then it does its job until it's dead. Bikes, there's a lot of wear and tear going on, and disc brakes, for example, you plan on 3-4 sets of disc pads a season, and 2-3 chains a season, and that's I would say sometimes one of the hard parts to get across to people is just the amount of touching and rejuvenation you got to throw at these things, and how fast a pair of Connie 5,000 tires will wear out. That's a $90 tire, and some people will burn through those in a month and a half, 2 months, and it is what it is. And but yeah. And then on what you're talking about as far as maintenance and care, just general maintenance, the road and mountain bikes, 2 different vibes. I would say with a mountain bike, especially where we live, for the most part, it's dry, it's dusty. After your ride, just take a hose to it. You don't put it on like full blast. You don't have to power wash the thing, but just spray off the dust off, on shocks, everywhere. But obviously don't put it on high power wash into the hubs and the bottom bracket and all that. But getting that fine layer of dust off the bike after a ride, and just a nice little wipe down. You don't have to bust out the cleaners and everything, the degreasers and all that stuff every time. But that'll save you a ton of wear over the time, over the season. And with lubrication too, I would say watch your over lubing, because we get a ton of bikes in here that are just doused in lubrication, and the customer will be like, I'm keeping it lubed, why is my chain wearing out so fast? Well, that lube acts, if you got too much on there, it acts as if it's glue. So any dirt or debris that's coming off the road, it's just going to stick to the chain. It's going to stick to your cogs. It's going to stick to everything. All of a sudden, you got sand, you got little tiny little rocks stuck to your chain that are going over the cogs and the teeth and all that stuff. And Yeah, just with road bikes, I would say like just obviously keep the chain lubed, and then don't overdo it. Yeah, and then just give everything a little wipe down every once in a while. If you do like to get after it and clean things really well, a citrus based degreaser for the drivetrain. Stay away from like the purple stuff or whatever it's called, from the auto stores. Yeah, just a nice citrus-based degreaser. Do your scrubbing and whatnot with that dedicated brush, and then spray it off with water. A lot of that stuff's water soluble, so it literally just falls off the bike. Do all your drying and whatnot, and then just a little bit of lube on the chain and whatnot. As far as the frames, remember like the old days when you used to wash your car in your driveway, little bucket, whatnot. Dawn dish soap. Just get it nice and sudsy. Get the bike wet. Scrub away. Dawn's awesome. It's great on your hands too. It's good handling. But yeah, you don't have to get too crazy with things. Obviously, just don't power wash. Especially like the bottom bracket, the headset, places where all the little small bearings are and things like that. But yeah, just I would say like the number one rule: just don't over lube your chain. Try not to get too crazy with the lube, and don't let things get completely the other end of the spectrum. We'll dive into like the NICA, the high school kids. Well, I think myself, Isaac, a couple other guys I know from some other shops, we've gone and done support at some of the races, and it's like, well, we ask each other, well, what should I bring? Should I bring some spare brake pads, some cables, and bring a bottle of lube and a derailleur hanger straightening gauge? That's all you'll need.
I know.
Like these bikes will roll in and they just sound like a bird's nest, and you're like, all right, you got to bring the kid over here. And like, all right, let me show you how to do this. All right, I want you to do this every other ride. Like, okay. And it's fun showing them how to take care of things, and you can see the light bulb go off, but there are some dry bikes out there. And it's not just the kids either. I gotta say, it's I'll be out riding, and you'll catch up to people, or people will catch up to you, and you'll chat with people, and it's just you're trying to talk, but all you can hear is this chain just going through this drivetrain the whole time.
Oh my god!
And it's just oblivious. And you're like, you hear that, right? But no, yeah, it's just. I guess there's things in other people's worlds that I'm probably just as oblivious to as well. But yeah, just just keep things lubed up, but not too much.
I think that's going to be the name of the podcast. Don't go crazy with the lube.
Yeah.
Oh man,
yeah,
nice.
Speaking on behalf of coaching at Olympus, that team is forever in your debt, and we hear. Some of the parents come and they arrive on race day. If their kid races at 2 p.m., they have been in Eric's shop at 10 or 11 a.m. and they are like, his bike sounds like Eric just described. Can you do? And Eric drops it, and at least it gets it to the start line, running. So.
Yeah, we try. It definitely comes down to the wire several times, but yeah, it's we try and keep them rolling. And God bless these mothers, man. They're juggling all these kids around and, keeping these bikes moving and trying to keep everybody happy and on schedule. So I feel sorry for them the most, but yeah,
I cannot wait to say to someone, your bike sounds like a bird's nest.
Yeah. Here to hear first.
Yep. So good, dude. That's the name of the podcast.
That was fun.
That's awesome, Eric.
Yeah.
Hey, Eric, one thing we usually ask everybody, I mean, if you're game, you've ridden bikes a lot. You're in this culture.
Sure.
Beyond bike maintenance, like what advice would you give to, cyclists in general? You see the gamut from probably the most experienced to the new beginner. Any like life advice you'd give to a cyclist?
Man, that's a deep one. I don't know. Like, I would say, I mean, we all do this because I think at the end of the day, it's kind of like our Prozac, I guess. I don't know. I'm sure you guys know if you go a few days without riding, your wife or somebody's just like, dude, you got to go get on your bike and get away from me right now and figure it out, But yeah, just obviously like enjoy yourself and cherish the moments where you can just get out of your own head and just figure life out, think about things. And, that's, I mean, one of the many reasons I do it. It's kind of, I remember as a kid, like I'd get home from school and I'd just get on my bike and go, and I'm in the middle of like West Tennessee in the middle of nowhere. And I've just been getting all the things figured out in my head that have been bugging me, or, the life things, I guess. And, that's kind of one of the big things with me is just, de-stressing the brain, and obviously the benefits that come with the body, but try not to get caught up in I guess like kind of what you think you should be riding or you should be wearing, or or the way you're supposed to look, or it's we're all out here for kind of the same reasons at the end of the day. And it's one of the simplest pleasures in life. And it doesn't have to be a $10,000 bike. It certainly makes it fun, but it's even just like a cruise around the block on an old Schwinn Stingray or something, just seeing the world from a bike and trying to figure those things out in life and all that. And there's the kind of the competitive side of things, I guess. It's the sport, racing or whatnot can be very very extreme on both ends. Success, winning a race or animating a race or whatnot can really boost your emotional levels in a positive direction. And at the same time, the other side, the defeats or whatever, the not living up to what you thought you're supposed to do or what you could do, those can really beat you down. And it's just, you got to find the middle ground and try and keep it, keep it where it's supposed to be, which is, why you're doing it, which is just the love of like riding a bike. And I guess that's what I got. I don't know if that helps or confuses awesome. People, but yeah, it's I try and we've all got families and kids and whatnot, and you try and share kind of the joy of what it is, and and those few moments where you're dragging your son or daughter up a Mormon Pioneer Trail, and you're like they're here we are, Dad's making me breathe hard again, and it's like and then you turn around and come down and you follow them and you can see them trying to catch air off of a little jump, and it's and on the ride home it's you get the thanks, Dad, that was fun,
Yeah.
That's all it really takes.
That's awesome. So I
true.
love that.
Man, Eric, well, we want to thank you for your time. We want to thank you for your support, both in the advice in the industry and the advice on all of our own mechanical needs that we bother you about on a daily basis. And we really want to thank you for being a part of the community as well. It's really nice to have you in the community, and you hear Eric's name talked about during the group rides. You hear Eric Flynn, like I mentioned, at the Olympus rides by the coaches. You hear Eric's name inside the peloton as we're going up a canyon. And so we want to wrap up by saying that Eric and Flynn Cyclery has a great reputation, a great shop. Check them out. And again, Eric, thanks for your time, and thanks for all you do for Mi Duole and the community.
Yeah, thanks for coming in, man. Appreciate it.
Dude, you're like a community leader.
Pressure.
You are.
That pressure, Stu.
We would crumble without you.
Oh, well, thanks. Means a lot. Yeah, I'm glad. Thanks for showing up. And the guys on the team, I see them quite a bit. Dean Walker, awesome dude. See him quite a bit too. Great guy. But yeah, just getting to know everybody, the Mi Duole guys, everybody, RMCC, whoever, and just keeping up with you guys. You guys don't give each other enough props as far as like your getting up at like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning and doing like 120 miles before work. And same with you, Spencer, the rides you guys go on and the dedication. I don't know. If I knew I was going to do a ride like that in the morning, I couldn't fall asleep. So just the fact that you can get some sleep before you do something like that is very, very impressive. And if anybody out there does not follow these guys on Strava, I highly recommend you check them out and check out the rides.
Quite a circus
they throw down at. Yeah, and all the guys on the club. Yeah, your early morning immigration rallies and all that. So it's fun. You motivated me. I think I got 8 rides before 7 o'clock in the morning this year.
Nice. Yeah. That's great.
I'm on a good track. I've killed some old habits. So next summer is going to be some 6 a.m.ers coming up. So
nice. That's great.
But yeah, thanks for the help and thanks for hanging around, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Eric.
All right, dude.
Thanks, guys.